What's up, Taiwan? I'm Jaime Ocon with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Voting is underway in the northern city of Keelung to recall its mayor, George Xie. Civic groups have been campaigning for months to remove the 49-year-old mayor, accusing him of corruption and incompetence. Joining us now live from Keelung with the latest is our reporter Joyce Zhang. Joyce, how's it looking at the polls there?
Hey Jaime, yeah, we're here in Keelung, about a half-hour's drive north from the capital, and people have been slowly trickling through this polling booth in the city center for the recall vote of the city's mayor, George Xie. Now, he himself came out to cast his ballot earlier today, and polling centers were a lot busier earlier in the morning across the city, some seeing long lines. Now, Xie has been in office just under 2 years, but for months now, a civil group has been campaigning to remove him, arguing that he's incompetent. There are several grievances against the politician, but the main one is the alleged mishandling of a shopping mall development, which they suspect involved abuse of power and also corruption. Now, if Xie's recall is successful today, he would be just the second mayor in Taiwan's history to be removed after Han Kuo-yu of Kaohsiung in 2020. Xie and his party, the KMT, have maintained his innocence and say that the right to recall should not be used as a political tool to overturn elections, which is what they believe is happening here. Jaime?
And so what needs to happen here for the recall motion to succeed?
Well, it's a bit complicated, but essentially, for the vote to even be considered valid, at least half of the city's eligible voters must turn up today and vote. From there, a simple majority will decide whether the motion passes, and essentially the recall effort would need over 77,000 votes to succeed. Now, as of now, there's about 2 hours left for Kaohsiung citizens to come out and make their voices heard. Jaime?
Thank you, Joyce. That was Joyce Sung reporting live in Keelung. We'll have another update at 5 p.m. local time. By then, the polls will have closed. We'll possibly have an idea of the result. Former President Tai Ing-wen is on her way to Europe for her first foreign trip since finishing her 2 terms in office. She's heading first to the Czech Republic, where she'll give a speech at the Forum 2000 conference in Prague. Then she goes to Brussels, where she'll be the first former Taiwanese head of state to visit the European Union's seat of power. Tsai plans to visit the European Parliament and meet with new assembly members there, as President Tai and the EU's legislative body worked to improve ties between Taiwan and the European bloc. The Defense Ministry on Sunday reported 11 Chinese military aircraft operating around Taiwan, but analysts are expecting even more activity from China following Taiwan's National Day celebration earlier this week. To explain more about what Beijing's goal is, I spoke to Mike Hunziker, Associate Professor at George Mason University.
So, Michael, given the timing, we have Taiwan celebrating its National Day, and we also have former President Tsai Ing-wen going on her first overseas trip to Europe. Do you think China is going to react with any sort of large-scale exercises like what we saw with Joint Sword A, those military drills after Lai Ching-te was inaugurated?
I mean, nobody can predict the future, but it seems very reasonable to expect that China is going to have some sort of, I don't want to say reaction because I think pretext is the right word. I think they're looking for an excuse, and this speech is obviously going to give them something. And even if Lai doesn't say something provocative, they'll find something to take umbrage at. So I do expect that we're going to see some sort of reaction, whether that rises to the level of a Joint Sword 2024 Bravo or not. Obviously, we'll soon find out.
Do you think that these exercises are planned? Do you think this is more of a reaction, or do you think China has these drills kind of already drawn up and is waiting for some sort of pretext to conduct these drills?
No, I think it's an important thing to keep in mind when we're referring to China looking for a pretext to do one of these demonstrations. It is extraordinarily unlikely that China's military can put together an operation of the scale that we saw at Joint Sword 2024 Alpha in a matter of days. I mean, we are talking about a joint operation with multiple services. The plans, at the very least, had to have been laid out weeks, months, or even longer in advance. And chances are notifications went out long before that too, just to get the people and the equipment in place. And so no military can put something together in a couple of days. And so therefore, I do think it's China looking for an excuse to do something that it already had a plan to do.
And it seems like China is gradually upping the military pressure on Taiwan with aircraft and ships operating in the region almost on a daily basis. Would you say this is still business as usual? Taiwan can manage this, or should we be concerned?
You know my take on this, which is, the time for business as usual passed many, many years ago. I think you put it again very well, that we are looking at a just very gradual but inevitable shift in the military balance in the Taiwan Strait. That balance has been shifting in China's favor for decades at this point. And as it accrues more and more military power, the fact of the matter remains Taiwan is relatively small. It's very close. The United States is far away. And so China's options for resolving this standoff militarily just grow and grow and grow. And so, yeah, I think Taiwan, if it hasn't already, needs to take this threat very seriously. It does not mean war is inevitable, but you want to do everything possible to just convince Xi and the military leadership that the military solution is not the way to go.
That was Mike Hunziker, Associate Professor at George Mason University. Taiwan is calling on China to stop using economic coercion to advance its political goals. That's after Beijing threatened retaliation against Taipei's trade restrictions on Chinese products. Last December, a Beijing report said that over 2,000 Chinese products faced trade barriers in Taiwan and requested their removal. A later review found the barriers remained. Taiwan says it is open to discussing the matter through the World Trade Organization. Leaders from Vietnam and China have agreed to boost security cooperation. China's Premier Li Qiang is meeting with Vietnamese President To Lam in Hanoi, part of a 3-day visit to Vietnam. The two countries are also looking to boost economic ties, with both sides set to sign new agreements on railway links and agricultural trade. China is Vietnam's largest trading partner. Young Vietnamese professionals are bucking trends, ditching highly sought-after finance and engineering jobs to open their own businesses. And for many of these young entrepreneurs, Vietnam's cafe industry has proven irresistible. Wesley Lewis reports.
Freshly brewed coffee, poured over condensed milk, the drink of choice for many in Hanoi. The Vietnamese capital runs on its coffee. And for 32-year-old Vu Dinh Du, that means big business. 4 years ago, Vu left his high-paying job in finance to open a cafe. He's part of a new generation of entrepreneurs breaking fresh ground in Vietnam's burgeoning coffee shop industry. He saw this venture as a long-term investment, but it took his parents some convincing.
Lúc mình làm thì mọi người biết ấy, thì cũng không quá ủng hộ. Tại vì anh nghĩ là cuối cùng thì bố mẹ nào thì cũng muốn tốt cho con, cũng thương con thôi. Mọi người luôn muốn mình có một công việc gì đấy nó ổn định, nó không phải lo nghĩ gì nhiều.
Vu has now opened 4 branches of his cafe, Refined, throughout the city. But there's tough competition. Downtown Hanoi has become a hotspot for trendy cafes. Economists say the country's coffeehouse market is booming, filled with ambitious entrepreneurs like Vu.
You don't have to really get special training or special certificates to open a coffee shop. So it goes well, then you continue. If it doesn't go well, then you will change another one. So that's why you see that there are a lot of new brands, new coffee shops open, and the high turnover rate is also high.
Coffee beans were introduced and popularized in Vietnam during the country's French colonial period. And a few decades ago, Vietnamese coffee planters started mass-producing Robusta beans, which are usually found in instant brews. This propelled the country to become the world's second-largest exporter of coffee beans, behind Brazil. Now Vietnamese people enjoy their coffee in many different ways. It's traditionally taken black or with condensed milk. But young people have begun to put their own spin on the drink. But even though coffee has become part of the country's cultural fabric, opening a cafe or being a barista is still a relatively new career path.
Bậc phụ huynh cũng sẽ chưa biết nhiều thông tin về cái nghề này, cho nên là ban đầu họ cũng lo ngại là đây đơn thuần nó chỉ là cái công việc của một người phục vụ thôi. Nó không quá là kiểu cao quý như cái nghề như bác sĩ hay kỹ sư chẳng hạn. Nhưng mà mình thấy thì cái nghề này mang lại cho mình được rất nhiều trải nghiệm về những cái kỹ năng mình tiếp xúc với khách hàng, mình trao đổi với khách hàng, như là cái kỹ năng làm đồ uống sao cho nó ngon nhất nữa.
A Vietnamese consultancy says the country's coffee shop industry is worth around $400 million, and it's still growing. What's more, international coffeehouse giant Starbucks has struggled to establish itself in Vietnam. One international market researcher found in 2022 that it only accounted for around 2% of the country's market. This has left room for young movers and shakers in Hanoi, giving them a real shot at owning their own coffee houses and brewing up their own success story. Fu Hua Hong and Wesley Lewis for TaiwanPlus.
The Matsu Islands are repurposing and renovating cultural treasures, not just to bring in more visitors, but also to preserve local memories that are starting to fade. John Ventriez has this story.
房间号码，这是18号。
Cultural worker Wang Hua-ti guides a tour group through a tea house that once gave military officers and their men a place to relax on a tough assignment. Through the Cold War, the Matsu Islands, just off China's east coast, were part of Taiwan's first line of defense against communist invasion. And in Wang's own lifetime, these islands were a world apart, only coming out of isolation and martial law in 1992. These days, the islands have transformed into a tourism magnet. But Wang is part of a movement to preserve memories of how things used to be and to keep alive a special island fortress identity.
我们有一个很强烈的一种世代的那个记忆的断裂。我的这一辈，我们的这一辈跟我的上一辈，他经历过这样的一个整个过程战地的这个背景的流程。但是我的下一代，如果尤其是在1992年后出生的这一些孩子。 他对他来讲，那个年代是跟他来非常遥远。
This isn't an easy task. There are a lot of now abandoned sites to protect. Here on the island of Nangan alone, there are 95 coastal defense batteries. Until recently, efforts to repurpose them were unregulated and full of failures. But the years since 2018 have seen a more sensitive approach, with help from the Culture Ministry. These days, a coalition of architects, artists, and concerned locals discusses what's to be done with old sites and installs public art inspired by them to enhance visibility. One conservation success story is Site 26, a project by architect Zhang Zhengyu. Her modifications to the site won her an architectural award earlier in the year. Since first visiting Matsu in 2017, she's become deeply involved in thinking about how to present the island's heritage to newcomers.
在设计的时候，我们的确是有意图的，想要把人在这个动线的过程当中慢下步来，然后透过这个框洞去看到，你跟村庄的关系。
For local cultural officials, these projects are a way of reclaiming agency on a group of islands whose story has long been shaped by the winds of change from the outside world.
我非常非常希望从战地转移下来是一个艺术岛。我们一直被环境，被政策。 被政治，而产生一个样子，那个样子其实从来都不是马祖自己。那么，什么才是真的马祖呢？
And while not everyone appreciates some of the more artistic aims of the program with its new artworks alongside old monuments, islanders are always happy to see more visitors, an important source of income and vitality.
还 OK 吧，我觉得至少它的背后也有马祖2个字，然后对啊，然后就是说让那个区块的游客变多，游客变多了以后，其实让地方也就活络起来了。那我觉得这是非常正面的，这是非常好的。
With many of these refurbishment projects and art installations finished in recent years, there's plenty to see, both for first-time visitors and even for locals. New ways to explore a very special group of islands. Fu Huaheng and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, we did the heavy lifting to bring you these highlights from the Arnold Classic Bodybuilding competition held in Spain on Saturday. I'm Jaime Ocon. Take care, never skip leg day, and we'll see you next time.
For more stories from Taiwan, Paris, France, and around the world, please follow TaiwanPlus on social media and download our app. Man, that's beautiful.